The workers seal the tomb, stone grinding against stone, the sound of finality, of forever. Inside, wrapped in linen soaked in myrrh and natron, lies a body, but clutched against its chest, pressed between the bandages and the silent heart beneath, is something else. A papyrus scroll, written in hieroglyphs that dance like flames across aged fiber. Spells, incantations, instructions, a manual, not for the living, for the dead. The Egyptians called it Ro Nu Pertem Hru, the Book of Coming Forth by Day. We know it as the Book of the Dead, and they made absolutely certain you would never read it while you still drew breath. Why? Because this wasn't a holy text meant for prayer. It wasn't scripture for Sunday morning contemplation. This was an instruction manual, a guidebook, a cheat code for the greatest challenge any soul would ever face: death itself. The ancient Egyptians didn't believe in a simple heaven. No pearly gates, no eternal rest in clouds playing harps with cherubs. And they certainly didn't believe in hell. At least, not the way we understand it. They believed in something far more terrifying. A journey, a test, a 12-hour voyage through an underworld so dangerous, so filled with monstrous gods and impossible trials, that most souls wouldn't survive it. They called this realm the Duat, and to navigate it, you needed help. Divine help, magical help. You needed spells that could transform you into a bird of light, incantations that could make demons forget your name, words of power that could command the gods themselves to step aside. You needed the Book of the Dead. But here's what should make your skin crawl. They never gave this knowledge to the living. Only the deceased received it. Only in death could you hold these words. Only when your heart had already stopped could you possess the spells that might save your soul. The living were kept ignorant, deliberately, systematically, for 3,000 years. Why? Picture this: the Valley of the Kings, 1275 BCE. Sunset paints the limestone cliffs the color of dried blood. Inside a tomb, deeper than any modern skyscraper is tall, priests perform the final ritual. They've spent 70 days preparing this body, removing organs, drying flesh with natron salt, anointing skin with oils that cost more than most men would earn in a lifetime. But the most expensive part, the papyrus scroll, hand-painted, every hieroglyph precisely rendered, some versions stretched over 30 feet when unrolled. The cost, equivalent to a year's wages for a skilled craftsman. Only the wealthy could afford it. Pharaohs, nobles, high priests. The poor died naked of knowledge, sent into the afterlife with nothing but hope. And even for those who could afford it, even for those who were buried with the spells clutched against their silent chests, there was a catch, a terrible, brilliant, merciless catch. You had to wait until you were dead to read it. Think about that. Really think about it. You couldn't study, couldn't memorize, couldn't practice the pronunciation of the spell that might save you from the lake of fire or the demon with knives for fingers. You had to learn it all in the moment, in the darkness, when your soul was already separated from your body, and terror was the only companion you had left, unless you had help. This is where the story gets fascinating and disturbing, because some of these texts did make it out. Fragments, pieces, spells copied by scribes who shouldn't have copied them. Papyri stolen from tombs by grave robbers who didn't understand the power they held. And when scholars finally translated them in the 1800s, when they finally read the spells the Egyptians reserved only for the dead, they found something extraordinary. These weren't prayers, they were instructions. Spell 125, how to enter the hall of judgment without your heart betraying you. Spell 77, how to transform into a golden falcon and escape danger. Spell 30b, the incantation to stop your own heart from testifying against you. Spell 6, how to make the magical Shabti figures work on your behalf in the afterlife. Spell after spell after spell, a complete manual for navigating death. And the more you read, the more a chilling question emerges. What if the Egyptians knew something we don't? What if they weren't primitive people telling stories to comfort themselves about death? What if they were describing something real? A real journey, real challenges, real consequences. And what if they kept this knowledge from the living not out of greed or superstition, but because in the wrong hands, in living hands, it was dangerous? Let me take you back. 3200 BCE. The Old Kingdom, the age when pyramids scraped the sky. Before the Book of the Dead, there were the pyramid texts, earlier, rawer, more primal. Spells carved directly into the burial chambers of pharaohs, literally written in stone so they could never be lost. These were the original instructions, the first attempt to codify the journey through the Duat. But notice, carved inside pyramids, entombed with the dead, hidden from living eyes. Then came the coffin texts, Middle Kingdom, around 2100 BCE. Now the knowledge was spreading. Nobles could afford to have spells painted on their coffins. Still exclusive, still only for the deceased, but more accessible than before. By the New Kingdom, 1550 BCE onward, the Book of the Dead reached its final form. Papyrus scrolls, portable, customizable. You could commission your own version with the spells you thought you'd need most. But always, always, the same rule. Only the dead may read. Why such consistency across 1500 years? Why such rigid adherence to keeping the living ignorant? What were they protecting? Or what were they protecting us from? Close your eyes and imagine this with me. You're an ancient Egyptian, a scribe, perhaps, educated. You've spent your life writing these spells for others, copying them onto papyrus with a steady hand and careful eye. You've written spell 125 100 times. The spell for the weighing of the heart. You know every word, every line. But you've never read it for yourself, never internalized it, never truly understood it. Because to understand it, to really deeply know it, you have to die first. Now you're 50. Your heart is failing. You can feel it, the irregular beats, the tightness in your chest. You have weeks, maybe days. Your own Book of the Dead is ready. You commissioned it years ago. It's beautiful. It cost you everything you'd saved. It sits in your house, right there, within reach. You could unroll it. You could read it. You could memorize every spell, every word of power, every incantation that might save your soul in the Duat. But you don't. You don't. Because even though death is coming, even though terror wraps around your heart like a python, you obey the ancient law. The living must not read. Only in death does the knowledge activate. Only when your car separates from your body can the spells function. This is discipline. This is faith. This is control that transcends even the survival instinct. But again, why? To understand the answer, we need to understand what awaits in the duat. And to understand the duat, we need to meet the gods who rule it. First, Osiris, once a living pharaoh, murdered by his jealous brother Set, dismembered, scattered across Egypt like seeds. His wife Isis gathered the pieces, reassembled him, and through her magic, resurrected him. But Osiris didn't return to the land of the living. He became something else, something greater. The Lord of the Dead, the Judge of Souls, the green god who sits on the throne at the end of all journeys. If you're going to pass through the duat, you'll stand before Osiris eventually. And when you do, every moment of your life will be weighed. Then there's Anubis, the jackal-headed god, the embalmer, the guardian of tombs. He's the one who performs the weighing. He places your heart on one side of the scale and Ma'at's feather of truth on the other. His hands are steady. His judgment is absolute. Thoth stands beside him, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and magic, the record keeper. He writes down the verdict. His stylus never wavers. And Ma'at herself, the goddess of truth, justice, cosmic order. Her single ostrich feather is impossibly light, yet it outweighs the hearts of the unworthy. If your heart is heavy with sin, with lies, with cruelty, if it tips the scales, then comes Amit. Amit the devourer, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus. A chimera of Egypt's three most feared predators, fused into a single nightmare that crouches beside the scales of judgment. She doesn't speak, doesn't judge, doesn't deliberate. She simply waits. And when a heart is found wanting, when it sinks beneath the weight of its own corruption, Anubis doesn't hesitate. He feeds it to her. The heart that failed the test. The heart that couldn't match the feather. The heart still wet with the blood of lies. Amit devours it. And when your heart is gone, consumed, digested, erased, you die a second death. Not the death of the body. That already happened. This is the death of the soul. Complete annihilation. No afterlife. No eternal fields of reeds. No reunion with loved ones. Just nothing. Forever. The Egyptians feared this above all else. More than disease. More than war. More than any earthly suffering. They feared the second death. And that's why they needed the Book of the Dead. Now here's where it gets truly spine-chilling. The Book of the Dead contains approximately 200 spells, though no single papyrus includes them all. Each person's book was customized based on what they could afford and what dangers they feared most. But certain spells appear again and again. Core spells, essential spells, spells that suggest the Egyptians knew exactly what they were doing. Spell 17. The spell for coming forth by day. It explains the origin of the gods and the creation of the world. Why would you need this in death? Because understanding the cosmic order gives you power over it. Spell 30b. The spell for not letting the heart create opposition. This is the big one. The spell you recite to prevent your own heart from testifying against you during the weighing. Think about the implication. Your heart knows the truth. It witnessed every moment of your life, every thought, every deed, every secret, and it will speak, unless you have the spell to silence it. That's not prayer. That's not faith. That's magic. Real, functional, results-oriented magic. And they only gave it to the dead.
But it gets even stranger. The Book of the Dead contains transformation spells, spells that let you change your form. Spell 76, become a golden falcon. Spell 77, become a divine falcon. Spell 78, become a bird of light. Spell 83, become a phoenix. Spell 86, become a swallow. Why would a dead person need to transform into a bird? Because in the duat, your human form is vulnerable, weak, easily destroyed by the demons and monsters that prowl the darkness. But as a bird, you can fly, escape, soar above dangers. As a phoenix, you can burn through obstacles. As a falcon, you can move with divine speed. These aren't metaphors. The spells are written as direct instructions. I am a golden falcon coming forth from the horizon. I have made my transformation. I have become a divine bird. This is shape-shifting magic, and it only works in death. The living can't use it, can't practice it, can't even fully understand it until they cross over. So let's address the obvious question. If these spells are so important, if they're literally the difference between eternal life and soul annihilation, why didn't the Egyptians teach them to the living? Why not memorize spell 125? Why not practice the 42 negative confessions until you can recite them in your sleep? Why not train for death the way you'd train for any other challenge? Here's one theory. Because the spells don't work for the living. They're not written in the language of the flesh. They're written in the language of the soul. Your ba, your personality, your essence, can't read them while trapped in your physical body. The ka, your life force, blocks the understanding. Only when they separate at death does the knowledge become accessible. It's like trying to read a book written in infrared light. Your eyes can't perceive it. But change your eyes, change your state of being, and suddenly the words appear. But there's a darker theory, a more disturbing one. What if the knowledge is dangerous to the living, not because it won't work, but because it might? What if these spells could do more than guide the dead? What if in living hands they could open doors that should stay closed, summon beings that shouldn't be summoned, unmake the cosmic order that Matt worked so hard to establish? Consider this. The ancient Egyptians were obsessed with order. Matt, truth, justice, balance, was the foundation of their entire civilization. When pharaohs died, it wasn't just a political transition, it was a cosmic crisis. The embodiment of Matt was gone. Chaos threatened to return. That's why mummification took 70 days, why the rituals were so precise, why every step had to be performed exactly right. They weren't just preserving a body, they were maintaining cosmic order. And the Book of the Dead was part of that order, a sacred technology passed down through millennia, guarded by priests, controlled, regulated. If that knowledge escaped into the world of the living, if anyone could read these spells, use this magic, command these gods, then the order collapses, chaos wins. Isfet, the Egyptian concept of chaos and disorder, devours Maat. The world ends, not metaphorically, literally in their cosmology. So they made a choice. Only the dead may read. Only those who have already left the world of order can possess the knowledge to navigate the world of chaos. It's the ultimate security measure, and it held for 3,000 years. But now we have the texts. Scholars have translated them, published them. You can buy the Egyptian Book of the Dead on Amazon for $20. The secret is out. The living can read it. So, has anything changed? Or was the danger never about the knowledge itself, but about the state of being required to use it? Can living eyes even comprehend what these spells truly mean? Can a heart that still beats understand the weighing? Can flesh-bound consciousness grasp the transformation into a falcon of light? Or do we just see words? Ancient, exotic, fascinating words, without understanding the reality they describe. Here's what keeps me up at night. What if the Egyptians weren't telling stories? What if they were documenting something? What if the Duat is real? Not as a place, perhaps, but as an experience, a state, a journey every consciousness takes when the body fails. And what if the Book of the Dead is exactly what it claims to be? A guidebook, a manual, a set of instructions for the most important journey you'll ever take. The one you take alone, the one you take in darkness, the one that determines everything. Imagine dying without the Book of the Dead. No spells, no incantations, no words of power. You wake, if waking is the right word, in absolute darkness, somewhere that isn't anywhere, a place that feels wrong in every direction. You're standing, but there's no ground, moving, but there's no destination. Then you hear it, breathing. Not your own, you're not sure you still breathe. Something else is breathing, something vast, something ancient. And you realize this is the first gate of the Duat. You need words, specific words, the spell that opens the gate, the name of the god who guards it, the password written in the Book of the Dead. But you don't have it. You never read it. You never learned. The breathing gets closer. You try to run, but the darkness holds you, paralysis born of pure existential terror. And then you understand what the Egyptians understood. Death is not the end of challenges. It's the beginning of the ultimate test, and you're taking it blind. This is why the Book of the Dead matters. Not as ancient history, not as mythology, not as a curiosity from a long-dead civilization, but as evidence. Evidence that someone, some culture, some priesthood, some lineage of knowledge mapped the territory of death itself. They went there, they came back, they wrote it down. And then they made absolutely certain the living couldn't misuse it. They created a system of ultimate knowledge control. You can only access the information when you can no longer harm the world with it. You can only read the manual when you're about to take the test. You can only learn the spells when you're already dead. It's brilliant. It's terrifying. It's perfect. But here's the question that should haunt you. What did the Egyptians see in the Duat that made them so certain this knowledge had to be restricted? What happens in those 12 hours of darkness that's so dangerous, so transformative, so reality-breaking that only the dead are trusted with the truth? What do you face in the Hall of Judgment that makes your own heart an enemy? What waits at the end of the journey that requires spells to transform into divine birds and words of power to command gods? And most importantly, what if everything we believe about death, everything we've been taught about the afterlife is wrong? What if the Egyptians already knew the truth? What if they wrote it all down? And what if we've been ignoring the most important manual ever written? Because we're still alive. Drop a comment right now. Tell me, if you could read your own Book of the Dead before you died, if you could memorize every spell, every incantation, every word of power, would you do it? Or would you obey the ancient law and wait until death to learn? Because that choice, that single choice, might reveal something profound about who you are. And it might determine what happens when your heart is placed on the scales. But before you can answer that question, you need to understand what you'd be preparing for. You need to see the journey, the 12 gates, the demons, the confessions, the weighing, the devourer. You need to walk the path through the Duat. And that's exactly where we're going next. Into the darkness. Into the underworld, into the realm where every soul must travel, and only the prepared survive. The moment of death, Not the Hollywood version, not the flat line on a monitor or the final breath surrounded by family. The actual moment. The ancient Egyptians described it with precision that should make your blood run cold. Your Ba, the part of you that's you, your personality, your memories, your consciousness, it separates from your body like smoke rising from extinguished fire. You're still you, still aware, still thinking, but you're no longer there. Your Ka, your life force, the energy that animated your flesh, it lingers near the body, confused, searching. And your Ak, your transformed spirit, your potential for immortality, it doesn't exist yet. It has to be earned. This is where the journey begins. Not in darkness, but in recognition. You are no longer alive, and the Duat is waiting. The ancient texts describe it as opening beneath you like a mouth, like the earth itself yawning wide to swallow your soul. You fall. Not through space. There is no space in death. You fall through possibility, through the gap between what was and what might be. And when you land, you're standing in a place that shouldn't exist. The first gate of the Duat materializes before you. Massive, made of something that looks like bronze but feels like congealed night. It doesn't reflect light because there is no light here. The gate generates its own anti-radiance, a darkness so thick it has texture. And standing before it, the Guardian. The texts call him he who eats the flesh of the dead. Imagine a being with the body of a man but the head of a serpent. Eyes that glow with the color of infected wounds. Breath that smells of centuries-old decay. He speaks, and his voice is the sound of meat rotting. Who are you to demand entry? This is the first test. And here's what's terrifying. You need to answer correctly. Not with your name. Your living name means nothing here. You need to recite your soul name, the secret designation given in the Book of the Dead, the magical identity that grants you passage. Without the spell, you're just fumbling in darkness. You might say your living name, the one your mother called you, and the Guardian laughs. It's not a sound, it's a sensation, like feeling your own bones vibrate at a frequency that shouldn't be possible. That name is ash, he says. That name is silence. That name is nothing here. And the gate stays closed. But if you have the spell, if you learned it in that moment of death, when the papyrus pressed against your chest suddenly became readable, you speak the words. Ancient words. Words that taste like copper and sound like storm. The Guardian's serpent eyes narrow. The gate opens, just barely, just enough for a soul to slip through. You pass the first gate, 11 more to go. Each gate is worse than the last. The second gate, guarded by she who cuts down the wicked. A goddess with knives for fingers, literal blades growing from her hands. She demands to know why you deserve passage. You must recite your deeds, the good ones. But if you lie, if you exaggerate, if you claim virtues you never possessed, the knives move faster than thought. Souls are shredded here, torn into fragments that scatter like dust in wind. The third gate, the gate of burning. The Guardian is made of living flame. You must prove you cannot be burned by speaking the spell of fire resistance. The words create a barrier, invisible but absolute. Without it, you ignite. Your Ba combusts. Not your body, that's already gone. Your consciousness itself catches fire. And you burn. Not for seconds, not for minutes, for as long as it takes for your essence to reduce to ash. then you're gone. The fourth gate, the gate of the drowned. Water rushes through this threshold, not normal water. This is the primordial flood that existed before creation. The waters of none, the cosmic ocean from which all reality emerged. To pass, you must prove you can breathe it. The spell transforms your lungs, spiritual lungs that no longer exist physically, into gills of light. You swim through, you survive. Without the spell, you drown, over and over, forever drowning, forever gasping, forever dying a death that never completes. The fifth gate, the gate of faces. This one is psychological terror distilled to its purest form. The guardian has no face of its own. Instead, its head is covered in the faces of everyone you ever wronged, everyone you ever hurt, everyone you ever betrayed. And they speak simultaneously. A chorus of accusation, of pain, of the wounds you inflicted. You must recite the spell of forgiveness, not asking for it, but commanding it, declaring by divine authority that your slate is clean. It's audacious, arrogant. It requires absolute conviction. If you hesitate, if doubt creeps into your voice, the faces multiply. They cover your entire field of vision. They whisper your sins until there's no room in your consciousness for anything else. Madness takes you there, at the fifth gate, and you're wandering, trapped in the sound of your own crimes forever.
The sixth gate, the gate of silence. No guardian appears. That's the trap. This gate only opens to those who speak the exact words of power. But the darkness here is so complete, so absolute, that most souls forget they have a voice, forget they exist at all. They stand there, silent, until time loses meaning and they dissolve into the nothing they believe they've become. The seventh gate, the gate of the serpent. A serpent the size of the horizon coils around this threshold. Apophis, or a fragment of him. The chaos serpent, the enemy of Ra, the embodiment of uncreation. You must speak his name backwards, must command him in the language of undoing. It's linguistic magic of the highest order. The spell in the Book of the Dead provides the exact syllables, the precise intonation. Get it wrong, even one sound, one tone, and the serpent strikes. Its bite doesn't kill you. You're already dead. Its venom unmakes you, erases you, returns your consciousness to the state before you were ever born. You don't die, you unexist. The eighth gate, the gate of blood. The threshold runs red, not metaphorically. The gate itself bleeds from wounds that never heal. To pass, you must prove you shed no innocent blood in life, must recite the negative confession, I have not killed the innocent. But here's the horror. Your own heart hears this claim. And if it's false, if you murdered, if you caused death through cruelty or neglect, your heart begins to bleed in sympathy with the gate, and you cannot pass until the bleeding stops, which it never does. The ninth gate, the gate of hunger. The guardian here is emaciated, ribs showing through translucent skin, eyes sunken, mouth open in permanent silent scream. This is the spirit of starvation, of deprivation, of want. You must prove you fed the hungry in life, must speak the spell of sustenance. If you were greedy, if you hoarded while others starved, the guardian embraces you, and you feel it, the hunger, the emptiness, the desperate gnawing need that never fills, for eternity. The 10th gate, the gate of truth. Here stands Ma'at herself, or a fragment of her divine essence. She doesn't ask questions, she simply looks at you, and under her gaze, every lie you ever told surfaces, every deception, every false promise, every betrayal of trust. You must speak the spell of truth-telling, must declare your devotion to Ma'at. If the words ring hollow, if your life contradicted them, you cannot form the sounds. Your mouth opens, but nothing emerges. And you stand there, mute, while truth crushes you with its weight. The 11th gate, the gate of memory. This guardian has your mother's face, your father's voice, the eyes of your first love. It speaks to you with the words of everyone you've lost, everyone who died before you. We're waiting, they say. Come through, come home, come rest. It's a lie. The guardian is a shapeshifter, a deceiver, a demon wearing the faces of your beloved dead to lure you into complacency. You must speak the spell of recognition, must declare, I know the false from the true. Most souls can't do it. The voice is too familiar, the face too beloved, the promise too sweet. They abandon their journey and embrace the illusion. And there they remain, holding phantom memories, while the real journey ends unfinished. The 12th gate, the gate of judgment. No guardian here, just the gate itself, and beyond it, a light. Not warm, not welcoming, clinical, absolute, the light of pure examination. This is the threshold to the Hall of Two Truths, the Hall of Judgment, where Osiris waits, where Anubis prepares the scales, where Ammit crouches, salivating. To pass this final gate, you need no spell, no incantation, no word of power. You simply need the courage to continue. Because once you step through, there's no turning back. Your heart will be weighed, your life will be measured, and the verdict will be final. Hit subscribe now, because what happens next in the Hall of Judgment will change everything you thought you knew about divine justice. The Hall of Two Truths is vast, not architecturally vast. It's not a building, it's a space, a pocket of reality carved from pure cosmic order. The walls, if you can call them walls, shimmer with hieroglyphs that write themselves in real time. Every soul that enters adds its story to the eternal record. The floor is polished stone, black, flecked with gold, like captured starlight. And at the far end, on a throne made of lapis lazuli and electrum, Osiris waits. He doesn't look dead exactly. He looks beyond death. His skin is the green of growing things in darkness, the green of life that thrives in the underworld. His eyes are ancient, older than human language, older than civilization itself. He wears the Atef crown, the white crown of Upper Egypt flanked by ostrich feathers. In his hands, he holds the crook and flail, the shepherd's tools, the symbols of divine kingship. He is the first to die and live again. He is the template. He is what you hope to become. Around the hall, 42 gods sit in judgment, 42 assessors, each one representing a different aspect of Ma'at, each one keeper of a different truth. They don't speak, they don't move, they simply observe, and their observation is crushing, like gravity increased 1,000-fold, like being watched by eternity itself. You want to run, every instinct screams it, but Anubis is already approaching.
Anubis, the jackal god, the embalmer, the psychopomp. His fur is black, not the black of ordinary dogs, but the black of the fertile earth along the Nile, the black of regeneration. His eyes are amber. They glow softly in the clinical light of the hall. He doesn't speak at first. He simply gestures for you to follow. You do. You have no choice. This is his domain. He leads you to the center of the hall, to the scales. They're larger than you expected,
made of gold so pure it seems to generate its own luminescence. The balance beam is perfectly level, perfectly calibrated. Thoth stands on the opposite side, the ibis-headed god, the keeper of divine knowledge. In his hand, a stylus. In front of him, a papyrus scroll. Your scroll. Every moment of your life is about to be recorded in his perfect script. Every action weighed, every word measured. Permanent, eternal, unchangeable. Anubis turns to you. When he speaks, his voice is neither harsh nor gentle. It simply is. Present your heart. And here's where the terror becomes visceral. Because you don't have to physically remove anything. You're already dead. Your physical heart is back in your mummified body, preserved in your chest cavity. But your spiritual heart, your id, the seat of intelligence, emotion, memory, and will, it manifests. You feel it emerging from your chest, not painfully, but profoundly, like the most intimate part of your being is being exposed to the universe. It appears in Anubis's palm, still beating, still alive in ways your body never was. It's beautiful and terrible, because everything you ever were is contained in that small, pulsing organ of light and shadow. Before the weighing can commence, you must speak. The 42 negative confessions, each one addressed to a different assessor god, each one a declaration of innocence. This isn't prayer, this isn't pleading. This is legal testimony, magical declaration, a binding statement of cosmic truth. If you lie, even once, your heart will know, and it will grow heavier. You begin. Hail, you Seknimt, who comes forth from Heliopolis. I have not committed sin. The first assessor god nods. Your heart remains light. Hail, Hepket, who comes forth from Keraha. I have not committed robbery with violence. The second god observes. Your heart stays steady. Hail, Fenty, who comes forth from Himenu. I have not stolen. The third god watches. So far, truth. But the confessions grow more specific, more penetrating, more impossible to satisfy perfectly. I have not slain men or women. Your heart trembles. What about the soldier you killed in war? The enemy you struck down to protect your family? Does that count? Does context matter? Your heart grows fractionally heavier. I have not committed adultery. That night, years ago, the moment of weakness, the betrayal you convinced yourself wasn't really betrayal, your heart knows. It grows heavier still. I have not made anyone weep. Every harsh word, every cutting remark, every time your anger wounded someone who loved you, your heart remembers them all. Heavier. I have not been the cause of terror. The child you bullied when you were young, the servant you threatened, the beggar you chased from your door with dogs. Heavier. I have not burned with rage. Lies. Of course you have. Rage was your companion in life, your secret fire. Heavier. 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 The confessions continue, all 42. Each one a scalpel cutting away the comfortable lies you told yourself in life. By the end, your voice is shaking. Your heart, visible to everyone,
pulsing in Anubis's palm, has grown dense with the weight of imperfect existence. You were never a monster. You were just human. Flawed, complicated, trying your best in a world that demanded more. But is that enough?
Anubis places your heart on one side of the scale. It settles with a soft sound, like a stone sinking into sand. The scale tips. Your heart is heavy. On the other side of the scale, Anubis places Maat's feather. A single ostrich feather, white, pure, impossibly delicate. It drifts down like snow, lands without sound, and the scale shifts. This is the moment. This is the axis on which eternity turns. You watch, unable to breathe, unable to think, as the two pans oscillate, heart sinking, feather rising, then feather sinking, heart rising, back and forth, seeking equilibrium, seeking truth. The 42 assessor gods lean forward. Even Osiris, enthroned in his eternal stillness, seems to focus more intently. Thoth's stylus hovers over the papyrus, ready to record the verdict. And Amit rises to her feet. She's been crouching there the entire time, beside the scales, patient. But now she stands, and you understand why the Egyptians feared her above all demons. Her front is crocodile, massive jaws lined with teeth like daggers, teeth designed to grip, to tear, to crush. Her middle is lion, powerful haunches, claws that could rend stone, the predator's strength concentrated in perfect killing form. Her rear is hippopotamus, the deceptive bulk, the crushing weight, the animal Egyptians feared most because it could overturn boats with casual violence. She is a trinity of death, a chimera of Egypt's most dangerous predators fused into a single impossible nightmare. And she's looking at your heart. Her eyes, small, dark, ancient, gleam with anticipation. Not malice exactly. She doesn't hate you. She's just hungry. She's always hungry. Because unworthy hearts are her sustenance, failed souls are her feast. She opens her mouth. You see the darkness inside. It's not the darkness of absence. It's the darkness of ending, of complete cessation. If your heart tips the scales, if it proves heavier than the feather, Anubis will not hesitate. He will feed it to her, and she will devour it with the casual ease of breathing. No ceremony, no final words, no mercy, just consumption. And then, nothing. You won't go to the field of reeds. You won't reunite with loved ones. You won't exist in any form, in any realm, in any dimension. You'll be unmade. This is the second death, the death beyond death. The death the Egyptians feared more than disease, war, poverty, pain, more than every earthly suffering combined. Because all earthly suffering ends. But the second death, that's eternal non-existence. That's being erased from the cosmic record. That's having never mattered, never been, never existed at all. The scale tips. Your heart is heavier. Amit's mouth opens wider. This is it, the moment of annihilation. Unless you remember spell 30B, the spell for not letting the heart create opposition. It's written in the Book of the Dead, inscribed on heart scarabs, carved on amulets. It's the most important spell in the entire corpus of funerary magic. And if you learned it, if you absorbed it in that liminal moment between life and death, you can speak it now. Your voice rings out across the hall of two truths. O my heart of my mother, O my heart of my mother, O my heart of my different forms, do not stand up as a witness against me. Do not be opposed to me in the tribunal. Do not be hostile to me in the presence of the keeper of the balance. The words are command and plea simultaneously. You're not asking your heart to lie. You're commanding it to remember context, to weigh mercy against justice, to consider intent alongside action. You are my Ka within my body, the creator and protector of my limbs. Go forth to the good place whereto we speed. Do not make my name stink before the judges. The spell continues. Ancient words, words of power, words that bind your heart to your will rather than to naked truth. And something shifts. The scale wavers. Your heart, still heavy, still burdened, begins to lighten. Not because the sins disappear. They don't. They never do. But because the spell activates a cosmic mechanism, a cosmic loophole. The gods in their wisdom provided this escape, this mercy, this acknowledgement that perfection is impossible and judgment without compassion is tyranny. The scale balances, heart and feather perfectly equal. Amit closes her mouth, slowly, reluctantly, but she closes it. Thoth writes all the papyrus, his stylus moves with divine certainty. He declared, justified. One word, but it contains everything. You have passed.
Anubis returns your heart. It sinks back into your spiritual chest, still heavy with memory, but no longer heavy with condemnation. You feel different. Not purified, that's the wrong word. The Egyptians didn't believe in erasure of the past, but transformed. Your Ba and Ka begin to merge. The personality and life force that separated at death now reunite in a new configuration. Your Ak emerges, the glorified spirit, the transfigured self, the you that's more than you ever were in life. This is what the journey was for. Not punishment, not judgment for its own sake, but transformation. Death as alchemical process, the soul refined through trial, the spirit tempered by terror until it becomes something diamond hard and light radiant. Osiris rises from his throne. He descends. Each step is deliberate, eternal. When he reaches you, he places one green hand on your shoulder. His touch is cool. It carries the scent of myrrh and natron, the smell of preservation, of things that endure. Welcome, he says, to eternity. And behind him, a door opens. Not a physical door. There are no physical things here. A threshold, a transition, a passage into something beyond. Through it, you glimpse the field of reeds, Sekhet Aru, the Egyptian paradise. It looks like Egypt, the Egypt of your memory, but perfected. The Nile flows with water so clear you can see straight through to the bottom, where fish swim in formations like flight patterns. The reeds are emerald and gold. The sky is the blue of lapis lazuli, the stone of the gods themselves. You see others there, the blessed dead, those who passed the trials. They're farming, fishing, living, because the Egyptian afterlife isn't rest, it's life continued, work without suffering, existence without decay. You can see your family, those who died before you. They're waving, not frantically, not desperately, just acknowledging, welcoming. You've made it, against all odds, through 12 gates and 42 confessions and one impossible weighing. You've earned eternity. But wait, let's rewind. Let's examine the other possibility, the
the timeline where spell 30B fails, or where you never learned it, or where your heart is simply too heavy, where the sins are too grave, the crimes too numerous, the cruelties too profound. The scale tips, decisively this time. Your heart plummets, the feather floats. No equilibrium, no balance, just failure. Thoth writes a different word, condemned. Anubis doesn't hesitate, doesn't apologize, doesn't explain. He simply takes your heart and turns toward Amit. She's already moving, her crocodile jaws open wide. You try to scream, try to protest, try to appeal to Osiris, to Ma'at, to any god who might intercede. But there is no appeal. This is cosmic justice. This is Ma'at made manifest. The wicked do not persist. The corrupt do not endure. Anubis places your heart in Amit's mouth. She bites down. The sound, though you're the only one who hears it, is the sound of stars collapsing, of universes ending, of possibility itself being snuffed. Your heart doesn't just break, it unmakes, and with it, you unmake. Your Ba dissolves, your Ka dissipates, your Ak never forms. The you that was, the memories, the loves, the dreams, the fears, the entire architecture of your consciousness, it all just stops. Not blackness, blackness is something. Not void, void is a place. Just cessation. The second death. And here's what haunts me. According to the Egyptians, this is permanent. In their cosmology, there's no reincarnation from the second death, no resurrection, no divine pardon. Once Amit devours your heart, you're finished forever. It's the ultimate consequence, the final end. And the Egyptians believed, truly deeply believed, that it happened to people. That some souls failed the test, that some hearts were too heavy, that some of the dead didn't make it to the field of reeds. They simply ended. This is why the Book of the Dead matters so profoundly. It's not about religion in the way we understand it, not about blind faith or comforting stories. It's about survival. The spells aren't prayers, they're tools, technologies of the soul. Spell 30B gives you the exact words to recite during judgment. Spell 30B protects you from your own heart's testimony. Spell 1 helps you navigate the first moments after death when confusion is greatest. Spell 6 activates the Shabti figures, the magical servant statues buried with you, so you don't have to do agricultural work in the afterlife. Spell 15 is a hymn to Ra that earns you his protection during the journey. Spell 17 explains the cosmic order so you understand the rules of the game. Spell 77 transforms you into a divine falcon so you can escape danger. Spell 81 transforms you into a lotus, pure, sacred, capable of regeneration. Spell 83 transforms you into a phoenix, able to burn through obstacles and rise renewed. Every spell has a function, a purpose, a specific application for a specific challenge. The Egyptians weren't making this up as comforting fantasy. They were documenting, recording, mapping, creating a guidebook based on what? On journeys the priests took? On visions granted by the gods? On the reports of those who nearly died and came back? We don't know, but we know they treated it with absolute seriousness. They spent fortunes commissioning these texts. They devoted their entire mortuary industry to it. They built their civilization's core values around it. For 3,000 years. That's longer than Christianity has existed, longer than Islam, longer than Buddhism.
3 millennia of consistent belief that death is a journey, the journey is dangerous, and preparation is essential.
Let's talk about the most disturbing spells in the Book of the Dead. The ones that suggest the Egyptians understood death magic at levels we can barely comprehend. Spell 42, for repulsing the slaughterer in the underworld. This spell protects you from a specific demon, one who hunts souls for sport. The incantation creates a barrier the demon cannot cross, but the language is precise, clinical, like an engineer writing code. It doesn't beg for protection, it commands it. Spell 50, for not dying a second time. Read that again. Not dying a second time. The Egyptians knew about the second death, and they had a spell specifically designed to prevent it. The incantation declares, "I am the God who is in his own body. I shall not decay. I shall not rot. I shall not die again." Its assertion as magic, will as reality, consciousness refusing annihilation. Spell 64, the spell for knowing the souls of the dead. This one lets you recognize other souls in the duat, lets you distinguish the genuine dead from the demons wearing their faces. It's psychological warfare, defensive magic against deception. The spell gives you the names of specific demons and the exact phrases to unmask them. Again, precise, functional, real. Spell 99, the spell for obtaining a ferry boat. The duat has rivers, waters that must be crossed, and ferryman demons who refuse passage to those who can't pay. But you're dead. You have no gold, no payment, unless you have the spell. It forces the ferryman to transport you, makes him your servant through magical compulsion. It's not asking, it's binding. Spell 100, for giving a soul power over its legs. After death, some souls become paralyzed by fear, unable to move forward, frozen in the darkness. This spell breaks that paralysis, gives you autonomy over your spiritual body. "My legs are the legs of Ra," the spell declares. "I walk with the stride of Shu. I move with the power of Atum." You claim divine attributes, not metaphorically. The spell makes you temporarily godlike, infuses you with cosmic power, for just long enough to keep moving. But here's what keeps me awake. The Egyptians had all these spells, all this knowledge, all this carefully documented guidance, and they still believed some people failed. Still showed Ammit devouring hearts, still showed souls being destroyed, still warned of the second death. Even with the manual, even with the spells, even with 3,000 years of accumulated wisdom, some souls didn't make it. Why? Maybe because knowing the spell isn't enough. You have to speak it, in the moment, in the terror, when your consciousness is fragmenting and reality is collapsing and nothing makes sense. You have to remember the words, form the sounds, project the intention, while dead. While separated from your body, while surrounded by demons and gods and impossible geometries. That's the real test. Not memorization, not knowledge, but presence, clarity, the ability to function in pure chaos. And most people, even good people, even prepared people, they freeze, they forget, they panic, they fail to speak. And then, Ammit waits. Think about what that means. Really sit with it. The Egyptians believed that between you and eternal life stood a series of challenges so severe that even with divine guidance, even with magical assistance, even with the gods themselves providing the answers, you might still lose. Your heart might still be too heavy. Your voice might still fail. Your soul might still end. It's existential horror of the purest kind. Not random horror, not meaningless horror, but just horror. Horror based on measurement, on weighing, on cosmic scales that don't lie. Here's where we need to get philosophical, because there's a question that's been lurking beneath this entire journey. Were the Egyptians right?
Not metaphorically, not symbolically, actually right. Does consciousness persist after death? Does it go somewhere? Does it face challenges? Is there actually a weighing? Modern science says no. Death is cessation. Consciousness is an emergent property of brain function. When the brain stops, consciousness stops. End of story. But science can only measure the physical, can only detect the material. If consciousness is something more, if it's a fundamental aspect of reality rather than just an accidental byproduct of neural activity, then science is looking in the wrong place. The Egyptians weren't scientists, they were explorers. They explored the territory of death the way we explore space or the deep ocean, through direct experience, through systematic documentation, through refinement of techniques over centuries. And what they found, what they consistently reported for 3,000 years, was this: death is not the end. It's a transition, a journey, a test, and you better be prepared. Now, you can dismiss this as primitive superstition, as fear-driven mythology, as the desperate attempts of ancient people to find meaning in the void. Or you can consider the possibility that they discovered something real, something we've forgotten, something our modern materialism has blinded us to, something that waits for us all. Drop a comment right now and tell me, do you think the Egyptians were documenting real experiences or creating elaborate fiction? Because your answer to that question might reveal what you're actually afraid of.
Let's return to the central mystery. Why were the living forbidden from reading the Book of the Dead? We've explored several theories, but there's one we haven't fully examined, the most disturbing one. What if the spells only work in death because they require a specific state of consciousness? Your Ba separated from the body, your Ka no longer bound to flesh, your Ak in the process of formation. These aren't metaphors. In Egyptian theology, these are distinct aspects of being, different frequencies of consciousness. When you're alive, all these parts are tangled together, integrated, locked into physical form. But at death, they separate. They become distinct, independent. And in that separation, new abilities emerge. The ability to perceive the duat, to interact with gods directly, to speak words that reshape reality. The living can't do this because we're still condensed, still limited, still trapped in the narrow bandwidth of physical existence. Death doesn't end consciousness, it expands it. And the Book of the Dead is written for that expanded state. It's like trying to read ultraviolet text with human eyes. The information is there, but you lack the receptors to perceive it. You need to die first. Not metaphorically, actually, literally die. And then, and only then, does the manual become readable. This explains why the Egyptians were so strict with the prohibition, not because they were controlling, not because they were gatekeeping, but because it literally wouldn't work any other way. Giving the Book of the Dead to the living is like giving a flight manual to someone who doesn't have wings. Useless, pointless. You need to transform first. You need to die. Let's examine the transformation spells more closely, because these are where the Egyptian understanding of death gets truly bizarre. Spell 76, the spell for assuming the form of a golden falcon. The text reads, "I have gone up from the island of flames. I have filled my body with magic. I have become the golden falcon, whose wings are 4 cubits wide. I am he who soars to the sky. I am he who travels through the duat." This isn't poetry, it's instruction. You're being told your form is malleable, your shape is temporary, you can become other things. The falcon grants speed, vision, the ability to see from heights impossible to ground-bound souls. When demons pursue you, and they will, you transform. You become too fast to catch, too high to reach. Spell 78 for assuming the form of a divine hawk. Almost identical to 76, but with a crucial difference: divine rather than golden. The divine hawk has access to sacred spaces, to temples in the Duat where ordinary souls cannot enter. It's a security clearance, a cosmic passport. Spell 81 for assuming the form of a lotus. I am the pure lotus which comes forth from the God of light. I am in the nostrils of Ra. I unfold my petals at dawn. The lotus is sacred, inviolate. It cannot be harmed by demons because it's too pure for them to touch. When danger becomes overwhelming, when you're surrounded, trapped, about to be destroyed, you become lotus. Small, beautiful, untouchable. The demons lose interest. You're no longer prey, you're decoration. Spell 83 for the spell of assuming the form of the phoenix. I have gone into the fire and come forth from it. I am the phoenix, the soul of Ra. I burn through the gates. I consume obstacles. I rise from ash. The Phoenix spell is ultimate transformation, death within death, destruction that leads to renewal. If you're trapped, if the gates won't open, if the demons have you cornered, you activate this spell, you ignite. Your entire spiritual form combusts, becomes living flame, and from that flame, you rise renewed, reborn, reconfigured. It's resurrection magic, available only to the dead. The living can't use it because the living fear destruction, fear the burning. But the dead have already lost everything, already experienced the ultimate destruction. So they can burn without fear, transform through fire, rise as something new. Then there are the protection spells, the defensive magic. Spell 7 for passing the Akaru. The Akaru are two lion gods that guard the horizon, the threshold between night and day, between death and resurrection. They're not evil, they're gatekeepers, cosmic security. And they ask a question, the same question to every soul. Who are you to pass this threshold? Most souls fumble, offer their living name, their family, their titles. Wrong answer. The Akaru don't care who you were, they care what you've become. Spell 7 provides the correct answer. I am yesterday, I am today, I am tomorrow, I am the soul of Ra, I am the heir of Osiris. You claim divine identity, assert cosmic heritage, and the Akaru, bound by Ma'at, bound by the rules, must let you pass. Spell 9 for passing through the underworld. This is a general protection spell, an all-purpose ward. The roads of the Duat open before me. The demons fall back. The darkness gives way to my light. It's assertion as reality, will as magic. You're not asking the Duat to let you through, you're commanding it. You're declaring that you have the right to passage, the authority to proceed. And if spoken correctly, with absolute conviction, with zero doubt, the Duat obeys. Spell 137A for the torches for the blessed dead. In the Duat, there is no natural light, no sun, no stars, only the light you bring with you. This spell creates spiritual torches, flames that burn without fuel, illumination that never dims. The incantation, I am a light in the darkness, I am a flame that cannot be extinguished. I illuminate the path for the blessed dead. And suddenly, you can see, the demons lose their primary advantage. The darkness becomes navigable. You're no longer stumbling blind through hostile territory. You're walking with purpose, with clarity, with divine light.
There's another category of spells, ones the scholars often overlook: the memory spells. Spells designed to help you remember who you were, what you loved, why you matter. Because here's something terrifying. In death,
memory becomes unstable. Without a brain to anchor them, without neurons to encode them, memories start to drift, to blur, to fade. You might forget your name, your family, your entire life. And if you forget, if you lose the thread of identity, you dissolve into the duat. You become part of the chaos, part of the darkness. No judgment, no weighing, no field of reeds, just absorption into the primordial void. Spell 89, for causing the soul to be united with its body. This spell prevents dissociation, keeps your consciousness tethered to your sense of self. My soul is with me. My name is known. I remember who I was and who I shall become. It's an anchor, a grounding force. When terror threatens to fragment you, when the impossible architecture of the duat tries to convince you that you never existed, this spell holds you together. Spell 91, for not keeping a man from his soul. Similar function, but addressing a different threat. External forces trying to separate you from yourself. Demons who specialize in identity theft, in stealing souls, in wearing consciousness like masks. The spell creates a binding. My soul belongs to me. It cannot be taken. It cannot be stolen. It is mine eternally. Simple, direct, absolute. Spell 92, for opening the tomb for the soul. Here's where it gets existentially disturbing. Some souls get trapped, not in the duat, but in their own tombs. They die, they separate from the body, but they can't leave, can't begin the journey. They're stuck, hovering over their mummified corpse, watching it decay, unable to move forward or back. It's a special kind of hell, a liminal nightmare. Spell 92 breaks that binding. The doors of the tomb are opened, the seals are broken. I come forth as I please. I am not bound to my body. I am free. Liberation magic, permission to leave, authority to begin. Without it, you might spend eternity as a ghost, trapped in your burial chamber, watching the centuries pass while your journey never begins. The Egyptians knew this could happen, had documented cases, and created a specific spell to prevent it. That's the level of detail we're talking about, the specificity of their knowledge. They weren't guessing, they were reported. Spell 17 deserves special attention. It's one of the longest spells in the Book of the Dead, and it's fundamentally different from the others. It's not protection, not transformation, not guidance. It's cosmology. A complete explanation of how reality works, how the gods were born, how the universe was created, how Ma'at was established. Why would you need this in death? Because understanding the system gives you power within the system. If you know how the duat was created, if you understand the principles that govern it, you can work with those principles, manipulate them, navigate them. It's like understanding the source code of reality. The spell explains, in the beginning there was none, the primordial waters, chaos, potential without form. From none emerged Atum, the self-created God, the first consciousness. Atum created Shu, air, and Tefnut, moisture, through self-generation, through divine masturbation, the texts literally say. Reality birthed from the first God's own desire. Shu and Tefnut created Geb, earth, and Nut, sky, the physical world. Geb and Nut created Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys, the gods of civilization, death, chaos, and protection. And from Osiris and Isis came Horus, the god of kingship, of divine order restored. This genealogy isn't mythology, it's a map, a family tree of cosmic forces,
And when you recite it in the duat, when you demonstrate that you understand the lineage of reality itself, you're claiming kinship. You're saying, I'm part of this system. I understand these forces. I have the right to exist within this framework. The demons can't touch you because you've proven cosmic citizenship. The gates open because you've demonstrated understanding. Osiris recognizes you as kin because you know his origin. It's knowledge as magic, information as power, and it's only accessible to the dead. Let's return to the Hall of Two Truths one final time, because there's an aspect of the weighing we haven't fully explored. The feather. Ma'at's feather. The feather of truth. Why a feather? Feathers are light, almost weightless. They float, they drift. And that's the point. Your heart should be that light, that unburdened, that free. Not empty. The Egyptians didn't value emptiness. They valued rightness, balance, harmony with Ma'at. A heart filled with Ma'at is paradoxically light because Ma'at has no mass. Truth has no weight. It's lies that make hearts heavy, cruelty that adds density, selfishness that creates mass. Every time you acted against Ma'at in life, every lie, every theft, every violence, every betrayal, your heart absorbed it. Not metaphorically, the Egyptians believed this literally. Your heart is a record, a ledger, a physical manifestation of every moral choice you ever made. And at death, it's weighed. Not against perfection, against a feather. The standard is impossibly high, inhumanly high. Because humans are heavy. We carry grudges, we harbor resentments, we act from fear and selfishness and pain. We are morally dense. And the feather? The feather is perfect lightness, perfect truth, perfect harmony. How is anyone supposed to match that? This is where spell 30B becomes crucial. Not as a cheat, not as a lie, but as a reminder to your heart. Context matters, intent matters, growth matters. You weren't perfect, but you tried, you learned, you became better. Your heart can acknowledge the sins without being consumed by them. It can be honest about failure while still maintaining essential lightness. That's what the spell enables. Not deception, perspective. Your heart speaks truth, but it speaks complete truth. Not just the crimes, but the love. Not just the failures, but the efforts. And sometimes that's enough. The feather rises, the heart settles. They meet in the middle. Balance. Ma'at. You pass.
But we need to be honest about something. The Book of the Dead shows multiple outcomes. The field of reeds is the best outcome, the goal, the paradise. But it's not the only possibility. Some papyri show souls who pass the weighing but choose different paths. Some become stars, join the imperishable ones who circle the pole star eternally, unchanging, eternal, remote. Some join Ra's solar bark, become part of his crew as he journeys across the sky each day and battles Apophis each night. Eternal struggle, eternal purpose. Some become aspects of Osiris himself, merge with the divine, lose individual identity, but gain cosmic significance. And some, this is the strange part, some choose to return, to be reborn, to live again. It's not reincarnation in the Buddhist sense. The Egyptians didn't have a clear doctrine of rebirth, but the texts hint at it, suggest that souls who proved themselves in the duat earned the right to return, to be born again into the world of the living, to try again, to live another life, with all the lessons learned, all the wisdom gained, all the experience accumulated. It's a secret option, hidden in the margins, never fully explained, but it's there. And then, of course, there's the other ending, the one we've been dancing around, the second death. Amit's jaws closing, heart consumed, soul erased. The Book of the Dead shows this too, depicts it, warns against it, but it never explains what happens after. Where do the devoured souls go? Do they go anywhere? Or is it truly annihilation, true non-existence? The texts are silent, and that silence is more terrifying than any description could be. So, here we are. We've walked the 12 gates, we've recited the confessions, we've witnessed the weighing, we've seen souls triumph and souls fail, paradise achieved and existence erased. And the question remains, what do we do with this knowledge? Because we're still alive. We're reading the Book of the Dead, something the Egyptians said we shouldn't do. We have the spells, the incantations, the words of power. But do we understand them? Can we use them? Or are we like children reading a nuclear physics textbook, technically able to pronounce the words, but completely unable to comprehend the reality they describe? Here's what I think. The Egyptians restricted this knowledge not because it was dangerous to have, but because it was dangerous to misunderstand. To read these spells and think they're just pretty poetry, interesting mythology, ancient superstition. That's the real danger. Not that we'll use the magic wrong, but that we won't take it seriously at all. That we'll reduce 3,000 years of accumulated wisdom about death and consciousness and cosmic order to just stories, entertainment, content, a YouTube video to watch while eating dinner. The Egyptians would be horrified, because to them this was real as engineering, as real as medicine, as real as any technology. The Book of the Dead wasn't literature, it was a tool. And tools require respect, require understanding, require acknowledgement that they serve a genuine purpose. So, if you're going to read this, if you're going to engage with this knowledge while still alive, then engage seriously. Consider the possibility that consciousness doesn't end at death, that there might be something beyond, that the journey might be real. You don't have to believe the Egyptian version is literally true. The gates might be metaphorical. The demons might be psychological projections. The gods might be aspects of your own consciousness. But something happens, some transition, some experience, and it might require preparation. It might require the ability to maintain clarity in chaos, to speak truth in darkness, to remember who you are when everything else is stripped away. That's what the Book of the Dead teaches at its core. Not specific spells, not particular incantations, but readiness, presence, the capacity to face the ultimate unknown with courage and wisdom. Let me ask you something personal. If your heart were weighed today, right now, this moment, would it balance the feather? Really think about it. Every lie you've told, every person you've hurt, every moment of cruelty or selfishness or cowardice, would they outweigh your love, your kindness, your growth? Would Amit devour you?
or would you pass? This isn't about religion. It's not about judgment from an external God. It's about honest self-assessment, about looking at your life clearly and asking, am I living in alignment with truth, with justice, with ma'at? Or am I accumulating weight, making my heart heavier every day? The Egyptians understood this. They lived with the constant awareness that judgment was inevitable, that every soul would eventually face the scales. But they also believed you could prepare, could lighten your heart, could live in ways that made the weighing easier, not through sacrifice or ritual, through action, speaking truth, treating others fairly, acting with compassion, maintaining balance. Ma'at isn't complicated. It's not mystical or esoteric. It's just being decent, being honest, being balanced. But it's also incredibly hard because every day offers opportunities to lie, to cheat, to hurt, to take the easy wrong over the hard right. And every time you choose wrong, your heart grows heavier. The Egyptians understood this. They lived with the constant awareness that judgment was coming, not as fear, as motivation, as a reminder that actions matter, that choices accumulate, that the person you become is the person who faced the scales. And you can't charm your way through the weighing, can't buy your way past Amit, can't negotiate with cosmic truth. You either lived well or you didn't. Your heart either balances or it doesn't. That's it. That's the system. Terrifying in simplicity, beautiful in clarity.
Here's something that haunts me. The Book of the Dead was used for 3,000 years. Multiple kingdoms, dozens of dynasties, millions of people. And then it stopped. Christianity came to Egypt. The old temples closed. The old practices ended. The last person to be buried with the Book of the Dead died around 400 CE. And then silence. Nobody has used it, really, genuinely used it as intended for 1,600 years. But the knowledge survived. In tombs, on papyri, in museum collections. Preserved through millennia, translated, published, made accessible. Why? If it's just mythology, just ancient stories with no relevance, why does it persist? Why do people still read it, study it, make YouTube videos about it? Maybe because somewhere deep in our collective consciousness, we recognize something true in it. Not literally true, not factually true, but essentially true. The idea that death is a journey, that we'll face judgment, that our actions matter beyond this life. These are human universals. Every culture has some version of them, but the Egyptians mapped it out with extraordinary detail, created a complete system, built an entire civilization around these principles. And that system, that way of understanding death and consciousness and moral responsibility, it still resonates. It still speaks to something in us. Maybe it's the clarity, the directness, the absence of comforting lies. The Egyptians didn't promise easy salvation, didn't guarantee everyone gets to heaven, didn't suggest that faith alone is enough. They said, you have to earn it. You have to face the truth about yourself. You have to stand before the scales and let your heart be measured. And if you fail, if you lived badly, if you caused harm, if your heart is too heavy, then you end. No mercy, no second chances, no divine pardon. Just annihilation. It's harsh, unforgiving, absolute. And maybe that's why it feels true. because life is harsh, reality is unforgiving, consequences are absolute. The Egyptians weren't offering comfort, they were offering preparation, a manual for the one journey we all take, the one test we all face, and they hid it from the living not to be cruel, but to be realistic. Because you can't really prepare for death while you're alive, can't truly understand it, can't practice it. You can only be the kind of person who might survive it. And that, being that person, that's the work of a lifetime. We've reached the end of the journey through the Duat. 12 gates passed, 42 confessions recited, heart weighed, judgment rendered. But there's one more thing, one more element of the Book of the Dead that we haven't discussed. The spells for the Field of Wreaths. Because even after you pass the weighing, even after Osiris welcomes you, the journey isn't over. You have to work in the afterlife, farm, fish, maintain Ma'at even in paradise. And the Book of the Dead provides spells for that too. Spell 6, activating the Shabbati figures, the magical servant statues that do your work for you. Spell 110, knowing the Field of Wreaths, understanding its geography, its rules, its opportunities. Spell 148, providing nourishment for the blessed dead, ensuring you never hunger or thirst. Even in paradise you need magic, need preparation, need knowledge. Because paradise isn't rest, it's continued existence, life perfected, work without suffering. The Egyptians didn't fantasize about heaven as an escape from effort. They fantasized about heaven as effort without decay, labor without pain, growth without death, existence without end. That's the goal. That's what the entire journey aims toward. Not cessation, not nothingness, not even rest, but eternal, meaningful existence, purpose that never expires, identity that persists forever. You remain you, just better, lighter, transformed. That's the promise. That's what makes the terrifying journey worthwhile. That's why the Egyptians devoted their entire civilization to this system. Because the alternative, the second death, the annihilation, the ending, was too horrible to contemplate. They'd rather face demons and gates and judgment and weighing than face the possibility of simply not being. And maybe they were right. Maybe consciousness is too precious to lose, too significant to let slip away. Maybe we're worth fighting for, worth preserving, worth transforming. Even if it requires walking through darkness, even if it requires facing our own hearts, even if it requires accepting judgment from cosmic forces beyond our control. Maybe that's a price worth paying. For the chance to continue, to persist, to become our best possible selves, forever. Hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to reveal in the final act will change everything you thought you knew about why this knowledge was buried. You've seen the journey, you've witnessed the weighing, you understand the system, but you don't yet understand why. Why did the Egyptians create this? What were they actually preparing for? And most importantly, what happens if they're right? What if the Duat is real? What if judgment is real? What if everything we've explored isn't mythology, but documentation? What if millions of people died unprepared, without the spells, without the knowledge? What happened to them? Where are they now? And what does that mean for us, the living, who've read the manual we were never supposed to see? The final act begins now, and I promise you, nothing will be the same after you hear this.
You want to know the real secret? The one the priests never spoke aloud. The one that's hidden in the spaces between the spells. The Book of the Dead wasn't just a guide for navigating the afterlife. It was a weapon against the gods themselves. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. The spells don't ask for divine permission. They command divine obedience. Let the gates open, not please open the gates. My name is known to the gods, not may the gods know my name. I am the Lord of the Horizon, not I humbly approach the Lord of the Horizon. This is assertion magic, declaration as reality. The human will elevate it to cosmic authority. The Egyptians discovered something that terrified their own priesthood. A sufficiently prepared soul doesn't need the god's mercy. It can demand passage, can compel judgment, can force the scales to balance through the sheer power of magical speech. The gods, these vast, ancient, incomprehensible entities, they're bound by Ma'at, by cosmic law, by the very rules they established. And the Book of the Dead teaches you how to use those rules against them, not to destroy them, not to overthrow them, but to achieve equality with them, to stand before Osiris, not as a supplicant, but as a peer, as another divine being, as consciousness that has earned the right to persist. That's why it was forbidden to the living, not because it wouldn't work, because it might work too well. Imagine if the living had this power. If anyone could speak the words that command gods, that reshape reality, that declare divine authority, the entire cosmic order would collapse. Because the living outnumber the dead at any given moment. And if millions of living humans suddenly possessed the ability to speak words of power, to command demons, to open gates, to transform into divine birds, chaos would devour Ma'at. The boundary between life and death would blur, then break, then disappear entirely. Humans would become gods, or try to. And in trying, they'd unmake the careful balance that keeps reality stable. The Egyptians understood this. The priests understood this. So they made a rule. Only the dead may read. Only those who have already left the world of order can possess the means to navigate the world of chaos. It's brilliant security through limitation. You can't abuse power you can only access after you no longer have physical form. You can't conquer the world if you've already died. You can't overthrow the gods if you're already standing before their judgment. The knowledge becomes safe precisely because it's restricted to those who've transcended the temptations of flesh and power and ego. Or at least, that was the theory. But here's what keeps me awake at night. We broke the rule. We, the living, have read the Book of the Dead. It's translated, published, available on Amazon, searchable online. Every spell, every incantation, every word of power. The living now possess what the Egyptians spent 3 millennia trying to keep from us. So, what happens now? Here's the thing about consciousness. Modern neuroscience says it's an emergent property, a trick of neural complexity, an accident of evolution. When the brain dies, consciousness stops. End of story. But what if that's wrong? What if consciousness is fundamental? What if it's woven into the fabric of reality itself, like gravity, like time, like space? What if the Egyptians were studying consciousness the way we study physics? mapping its properties, testing its limits, documenting its behavior in different states. Birth is one state, life is another, death is a third. And what if death doesn't end consciousness? It just changes it, separates the bar from the car, allows the arc to form, opens perception to dimensions that flesh-bound awareness can't access. The duat isn't a place, it's a frequency, a bandwidth of reality that becomes accessible when the biological constraints fall away. The gates aren't physical barriers, they're cognitive thresholds, challenges that test whether consciousness can maintain coherence without a brain to structure it. The gods aren't external entities, they're aspects of cosmic consciousness, personified principles, Mayat as process, Osiris as transformation, Anubis as transition, Amit as annihilation. And the Book of the Dead? It's a user manual for consciousness itself, instructions for navigating reality without a body, for maintaining identity without neurons, for persisting without the biological scaffolding we take for granted. That's why it works for the dead and not the living. Not because of magic, because of state dependence. You can't read the manual until you're in the state it describes. You can't understand death until you die. But here's where it gets personal, uncomfortably personal. Because if any of this is true, if consciousness persists, if the journey is real, if judgment is actual, then most people alive today are completely unprepared. We don't believe in the afterlife. Not really. Not in our bones. We say we do, maybe. We mouth the platitudes. We attend the services. But do we live like it's real? Do we make choices based on the certainty that our hearts will be weighed? Or do we live like, this is it? Like, there's no consequence beyond death? Like we can lie, cheat, hurt, betray, and it all just ends? The Egyptians lived differently. Every choice was made with the weighing in mind. Every action considered in light of Ma'at. Every word spoken with the knowledge that it would eventually be measured against the feather. They weren't perfect. The Book of the Dead proves that. All those spells for protection, for silencing the heart, for transforming into birds to escape danger. They knew they'd fail, knew they'd sin, knew their hearts would carry weight. But they prepared anyway. They learned the spells, commissioned the papyri, built the tombs, preserved the bodies. They took death seriously. We don't. We avoid it, euphemize it, medicalize it, hide it in hospitals and funeral homes where we don't have to see it. We treat death like an embarrassment, an inconvenience, a failure of medicine rather than the inevitable destination of every life. And because we don't take death seriously, we don't take life seriously. We accumulate sins like we're collecting baseball cards. We make our hearts heavier every day. We lie to ourselves about who we are and what we've done. And then, when death comes unexpectedly, violently, finally, we're shocked. We're unprepared. We're standing at the first gate with no spell to speak, no name to give, no understanding of where we are or what comes next. And the guardian asks, "Who are you?" And we have no answer. Drop a comment right now. Tell me honestly, are you prepared to die? Not theoretically. Actually, genuinely prepared. Do you know what happens after your last breath? Do you have a map for the territory? Do you understand the rules of the game? Or are you hoping, just vaguely, desperately hoping that it'll all work out somehow. That's not preparation. That's wishful thinking. And wishful thinking doesn't open gates, doesn't balance scales, doesn't stop a myth from devouring your heart. The Egyptians knew this. That's why they invested everything, their wealth, their art, their entire civilization, into death preparation. Not because they were morbid or obsessed with death, because they were realistic about death. They understood that life is temporary, death is permanent, and what happens in death matters infinitely more than what happens in life. Because life lasts decades, death lasts forever. So which should you prepare for more? The Egyptians answered that question clearly, definitively, and we, modern, sophisticated, scientifically advanced, we've answered differently. We prepare for life. We ignore death. We pretend it won't happen, or it'll be easy, or someone else will handle it. And then, when it comes, we're naked, defenseless, lost, standing in darkness with no light, facing gates with no keys, hearing our names called and unable to answer because we never learned our soul names. That's the real horror. Not the demons, not the monsters, not even Amit. The horror is unpreparedness. The terror is ignorance. The nightmare is realizing, too late, that the journey was real, the test was real, the stakes were real, and you treated it all like a fairy tale. Here's what I want you to understand. You're alive right now, reading this, thinking about this. That means you still have time. Time to prepare. Time to learn. Time to become the kind of person whose heart might balance the feather. You can't memorize the spells. They won't work for the living anyway. But you can become the kind of consciousness that won't need them. You can live in Ma'at, speak truth, act with justice, maintain balance. You can lighten your heart now, while you still can. Every day is an opportunity. Every choice is a chance. Will you lie or speak truth? Will you harm or show compassion? Will you take or give? Will you make your heart heavier or lighter? The Egyptians believed judgment was inevitable, that every soul would face the scales eventually. But they also believed you could tip the odds in your favor, could prepare, could live in ways that made passage easier. Not through ritual, not through sacrifice, not through empty prayer, through action, through choice, through becoming day by day the person whose heart deserves to continue. That's the real secret of the Book of the Dead. It's not about the spells. It's about the life that makes the spells unnecessary. It's about becoming so aligned with Ma'at, so truthful, so balanced, so just, that when you stand before Osiris, he recognizes you immediately, not as a stranger begging for mercy, but as kin, as someone who already embodies what he represents, as consciousness that has earned its right to persist. There's one more thing, the deepest secret, the one that changes everything. The Book of the Dead contains a spell we haven't discussed, spell 175. It's called the spell for not dying. Not dying a second time. Not dying in the underworld. Just not dying. The spell is strange, fragmentary, difficult to translate. But the core message is clear. Death is not inevitable. It's a choice, a transition, a door you can walk through or refuse. The spell suggests that sufficiently advanced consciousness, sufficiently prepared, sufficiently aligned with Ma'at, sufficiently awake, can choose not to die, can remain in existence without interruption, can transform directly from living flesh to divine Akh without the journey through the Duat. The Egyptians called these beings the imperishable stars, the ones who never died at all, who transcended death entirely, who became immortal not through resurrection, but through never needing to resurrect, because they never ended. This is the ultimate secret, the goal beyond the goal. Not to survive death, but to transcend it. To become so conscious, so present, so fully awake, that death simply doesn't apply to you anymore. You're not in the game. You've moved beyond it. You're not avoiding judgment. You've become the judge. You're not seeking the field of reeds. You've become the field. This is why the Book of the Dead was kept from the living. Not because the knowledge was dangerous, because the possibility was dangerous. If humans realized they could transcend death, if they understood that consciousness can persist indefinitely, that immortality is achievable, that divinity is accessible, everything would change. Society would restructure around different values. Mortality would lose its sting. The gods would lose their authority. Humans would stop being subjects and become peers. And the cosmic order, the careful hierarchy of mortal and immortal, living and dead, human and divine, would collapse. So let me leave you with this. Right now, in this moment, you are alive. Your Ba and Ka are integrated. Your Akar hasn't formed. Your heart still beats with biological rhythm. You have this precious window, these years, these decades, to prepare for what comes next, to decide who you'll be when the separation happens, when your consciousness detaches from flesh and stands in the darkness of the first gate. Will you know your name? Will you have the words? Will you understand the journey? Or will you be lost, confused, unprepared? The Egyptians spent 3,000 years trying to answer that question, trying to map the territory, trying to create a system that would guide souls through the ultimate transition. They failed in the end. Their civilization fell. Their gods were forgotten. Their temples crumbled, but the Book of the Dead survived. Against all odds, against 3 millennia of history, against empires and religions and revolutions, it survived. And now you have it. You, the living who were never supposed to read it. You have access to the manual. So what will you do with it? Will you dismiss it as mythology? File it away as interesting history? Treat it like entertainment? Or will you listen? Will you hear what the Egyptians were really saying beneath the gods and spells and ritual? Consciousness is real. Death is real. The journey is real. And you better be ready. Because one day, maybe today, maybe decades from now, but inevitably, certainly, absolutely, your heart will stop. Your Ba will separate from your Ka, and you'll stand in darkness. And a voice will ask, "Who are you?" And everything will depend on your answer. The Egyptians knew this. They lived it. They built their entire civilization around this truth. And then they tried to take the knowledge with them, bury it with the dead, keep it from causing chaos among the living. But the secret escaped, and now you know. What happens next is up to you. There's an inscription found in a tomb in the Valley of the Kings. It's not from the Book of the Dead. It's older, more primal. It says, "To speak the name of the dead is to make them live again." Think about that. Every person who ever lived, every consciousness that ever existed, every soul that walked through the Duat or failed at the gates or was devoured by Amit, they continue as long as someone speaks their name, remembers their existence, acknowledges they were real. The ancient Egyptians live on because we're talking about them. Right now, in this moment, their names are being spoken, their ideas are being shared, their truth is being remembered. They transcended death not through magic, but through legacy, through ideas so powerful they couldn't be buried, through truths so fundamental they survived millennia, through wisdom so profound it still resonates across the centuries. And when you die, when your heart is weighed and your name is called, what will you leave behind? What ideas? What truths? What legacy? Will anyone speak your name and make you live again? Or will you be forgotten, dissolved into the darkness? A consciousness that existed briefly and then nothing. That's the real second death. Not being devoured by Amit, but being forgotten by the living. The Egyptians understood this. That's why they carved their names in stone, built monuments, created art, told stories. They were fighting against the ultimate enemy, oblivion, and some of them won. Osiris still lives. Anubis still guides. Ma'at still measures, not as literal gods, but as ideas, as principles, as consciousness that persists through memory and meaning. They became immortal by becoming unforgettable. And you, right now, alive, reading this, you have the same choice. Live in a way that matters. Become someone worth remembering. Create meaning that transcends your mortal span, or don't. Accumulate weight. Make your heart heavy. Live for momentary pleasures and forget about eternity. And when you die, when you face the weighing, learn what the Egyptians already knew. The scales don't lie. The feather doesn't bend. And Amit is always hungry. Subscribe now. Share this. Save it. Not for me, for yourself. Because one day, you're going to die. And on that day, in that moment, when everything familiar falls away, you're going to remember this video. You're going to remember that someone warned you. Someone showed you the map. Someone explained the rules. And you're going to wish you'd paid attention. You're going to wish you'd prepared. You're going to wish you'd taken it seriously. Don't let that be your regret. The Egyptians left us the manual. The least we can do is read it. Really read it. And then become the kind of consciousness that doesn't need it. Because the best way to survive the weighing is to arrive with a heart so light it floats on its own. A heart that matches the feather because it's already filled with Ma'at. A heart that Amit looks at and loses her appetite because there's nothing there to devour. Just light, just truth, just consciousness that earned its right to continue. That's the real magic. That's the real spell. Not words of power, not ancient incantations, just living well, living true, living in a way that when your name is spoken after you're gone, you live again, forever.